Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Billyon Richardson with name 2103050001. And today I'm going to discuss about a journal. The title is Vocabulary Self-Collection Strategy. Is it effective to improve vocabulary mastery achievement on senior high school student? Without wasting the time, let me begin the discussion. This research aimed to find out whether there was a significant difference in the vocabulary mastery between students who were taught using vocabulary self-collection strategy and those who were taught using conventional method. This research used a quantitative approach with the experimental method of quasi-experimental design. There were 60 students involved as a sample of this research selected using the prospective cluster sampling technique. The instrument used was a test including pre-test and post-test, and the data were analyzed using Mann-Whitney test. The results showed that there was a significant difference in vocabulary mastery between students who were taught using vocabulary self-collection strategy and those who were taught using the conventional method. In conclusion, based on the result of the test, it was found that the vocabulary self-collection strategy was more effective than the conventional method. The table of content that we are going to discuss is introduction, method, and finding and discussion. Our first discussion is introduction. Let me begin. Mastering vocabulary is important in getting know any languages. This is due to the fact vocabulary is built into all elements of the language. To be specific, reading, writing, speaking, and listening. While not having sufficient vocabulary, it must be not possible to get the proper abilities in any language skill. Since English became the foreign language in Indonesia, it is included in school curriculum from elementary to high school. Despite frequent use of the English language both in and out of the classroom, students continue to face difficulties in their learning. This is due to the fact that vocabulary has been acknowledged as being critical to language use, and that learners with inadequate vocabulary knowledge have had problem in second language acquisition. Thinking about the significance of mastering vocabulary, it ought to learn using the suitable in strategy that student vocabulary mastery can be stepped forward mainly at the senior school level in Baobab, Southeast Sulawesi. Learning methods from vocabulary are a subset of language learning strategy that have received a great deal of attention strategy since the late 1970s. When it comes to learning word independently, a vocabulary strategy is a specific instruction instrument and a method of going about indirectly or explicitly, as well as the independent word learning abilities needed to do so. Gaining knowledge of vocabulary is not just about its form of significance. It is also about the word learning, which contain layers of meaning, some set of syntactic guidelines and boundaries, and the socially constructed pattern for the right use of the language. After thinking about vocabulary, then it needs to gain knowledge of with the ideal method for the learner to collect new vocabulary through the mastering method within the classroom. The issue seems at the vocabulary of the student of SMA Negeri 4 Baobab, Southeast Sulawesi. English teachers introduce English vocabulary using translation and ask students to memorize it. Translation ought to be prevented because it has numerous risks, such as students may have verbalism and no longer all words may be translated. For that reason, many students lose interest and become bored in studying vocabulary. Consequently, student vocabulary fluency could be very low due to the fact students have issue memorizing the new word which has been taught and that they effortlessly forget about the phrases that have been learned earlier than. By knowing the problem faced by the student in SMA Negeri 4 Baobab, the researcher suggests one strategy to overcome it, which is self-vocabulary collection strategy to educate vocabulary to enhance student vocabulary fluency. VSS or self-vocabulary collection have many benefits such as making connection among new words and their meaning, growing pupil interest in new phrases, and growing student passion for learning and the invention of latest words. This strategy makes studying method more exciting and fun for the student. Students are not going to be bored throughout the interest as they will not no, simplest be asking to reply question related to the textual content without any coaching. In conclusion, using VSS can improve student vocabulary mastery through making the studying more fun, bringing enthusiasm for students at some point of the studying process, and motivating the student to accumulate new words. The student increase their activeness within the class and have been courageous to ask and answer some question, and it helped the student develop their vocabulary. Therefore, the VSS is applied by the researcher on the grade 11 student at SMA Negeri 4 Baobab by expecting the strategy will encounter student vocabulary learning problems will lead to the improvement of their vocabulary mastery achievement. The second discussion is method. Let me begin. A quasi-approach of quasi-experimental design was used for this research. This intended that this study use group of students, wherein one group changes into deal with as a control group and some other group turned into handle as an experimental group. The sample have been classed MIA 4 as an experimental class and MIA 7 as a control class, with a total number over 60 students. They were selected as a sample using the prospective cluster sampling technique. It means each group of students who have low vocabulary learning achievement have the opportunity to be selected as a sample of this research. To collect the data, this research need an instrument. The instrument used was a vocabulary test. It was linked to the perspective and productive ability of language overall. The task was divided into pre-test and post-test. In administering the task, the researcher explained first to the student and invited the student to ask whether there was something they did not understand about the instruction. Now, the data accumulated throughout the task is analyzed using descriptive static to decide student vocabulary fluency earlier than and after treatment, and inferential statics to determine if there was a huge distinction in vocabulary fluency among the students. Students who have learned to apply self-collection vocabulary approach and those which have been taught using the conventional approach. The third discussion and the last discussion is finding and discussion. Let me begin. This research is conducted on grade 11 student at SMA Negeri 4 Baobab. It takes 2 classes of the sample. Since this research used a test as the research instrument, the researcher administers the first pre-test first, then does the treatment, and finally administer the post-test. 30 items of the multiple choice test must be answered by the student to find out their achievement before and after the implementation of VSS in mastering vocabulary. To know the student initial vocabulary mastery, the pretest is administered. The data obtained from the pretest are then analyzed using the descriptive tactic throughout SPSS. Based on the data, it is concluded that student achieved of mastering vocabulary before being taught using VSS is in the poor category. It is because most student scores in the pretest are in that category. A treatment that uses VSS is then applied to the experimental class for 6 meetings. As it finishes, a post-test is administered to find out the student vocabulary mastery achievement. Also, it is used to find out whether the strategy is effective to enhance the level of vocabulary mastery achievement. The result of the post-test indicate no more students achieve very poor and poor mastery achievement. It can be said that there is an improvement of vocabulary mastery achievement after being taught using VSS. Not only in the experimental class but also control class, the pre-test is administered. Among all categories of vocabulary mastery achievement, the very poor category is achieved by most students. Therefore, it can be concluded that the students have very poor achievement in vocabulary mastery. Then, in the control class, a treatment using the conventional method is applied for 6 meetings. There is an increasing in student achievement in the excellent category, in which there is not any student achieve the category increases, but there 3 students have excellent achievement in the post-test. The data reveal that there also an improvement of vocabulary mastery achievement from pre-test to post-test. Overall, the student vocabulary mastery achievement in the post-test is in the fair category, since it is the category of achievement that most students achieve. The outcome which has been offered in the result describe that the pre-test and post-test result in each the experimental class and the control class. The experimental class is taught using a vocabulary self-collection approach, whereas the control class is taught using the conventional approach. The data exhibit that there is a development in the performance of the student in the mastery of vocabulary in the experimental class. For assessment, in the control class, the mean post-test score is better than the pre-test. These outcomes also are supported by the end result of the endgame task discovered the effectiveness of every approach. Now, even though this research is just focused on the student vocabulary mastery achievement through VSS, in which of the purpose of VSS is to enable the long-term acquisition of vocabulary, but some researchers also prove that VSS is effective on student vocabulary learning motivation and behavior to motivate students to learn vocabulary since they do not feel bored and enjoy the class and actively join the learning. In conclusion, primarily based on the end result of the data analysis as provided formally within the descriptive analysis, supported through the hypothesis and the effectiveness test, this research concluded that there is a significant difference in the achievement of vocabulary proficiency among students and those that are taught using self-taught vocabulary. It means that students gain a great command of vocabulary after being taught using the vocabulary self-collection strategy. It revealed that the students have an appropriate achievement in vocabulary mastery after being taught using the conventional method. Moreover, the result of the efficiency task concluded that the vocabulary self-collection approach is greater effective than the conventional approach. Observing the result of each group, this research suggests to use the vocabulary self-collection strategy in teaching vocabulary, since it is better to improve student vocabulary mastery achievement than the conventional method. Alright, I think that's all for my discussion. Thank you very much for your kind attention to watch and listen to my video, and I'm very sorry if my discussion is not good and I have some mispronunciation in my video. Thank you very much for your kind attention to watch and listen to my video. Wabillahi taufiq walhidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.